you lovely people, you. It is Mrs. Berger, and I'm going to go over your Unit 2 study guide to help prepare you for that Unit 2 assessment. So, buckle in. This might take a little bit, but we're going to get through these 20 questions. All right, here we go. Number 1. What is the decimal equivalent to 14.5%? Well, anytime I'm thinking about decimals and percents, I think of that Dr. Pepper, right? Dr. Pepper. So 14.5%. I have a percent. I want a decimal. I'm going to move that I'm going to move that decimal 2 spaces. 2 spaces to the left, Beyonce style. So I start at the decimal. I'm going 1, 2. I can rewrite that 0.145 or 145 thousandths. So my answer would be D, 145 thousandths. Remember, percent to decimal, you're moving that 2 spaces to the left, or what I like to call Beyonce style, to the left. All right, so we got it. Dr. Pepper out of the way. Remember, if you're going from decimal percent, you're going to the right, percent to decimal, to the left. All right, let's look at number 2. Number 2 says, which of the following is a false statement? So I'm looking for the one that is not true. There's really, no easy way to do this one. The best strategy is just to look at each option individually until you find that false statement. So let's start with A. A says that 0.3 is greater than 1%. Well, when I compare fractions, decimals, and percents, I want them in the same form. So if I got 3/10 of a test correct, I earned a 30%, right? Because we take that decimal, we go 1, 2 spaces to the right. So 30% is greater than 1%. Well, that's true. So I eliminate A as an option choice. It can't be my false statement because it's true. B. B says 1 is less than 133%. Well, let's put them both into percentages. If I have 1 whole, I have 100%. Is 100% less than 133%? Well, yes, that's true. So it cannot be B. So let's try C. We're going to find this false one, whether we like it or not. So C says 1/3 is less than 13.9%. All right, 1/3. 1/3 is a very common fraction. You don't necessarily have to do the long division if you know our common fractions like thirds and fourths and halves and fifths, right? Sometimes we just have to know the equivalent decimal to the fraction. I know from all of my years of experience that 1/3 is 0.33333 repeating, right? That's that repeating decimal. If I didn't know that, I would have to do that long division, 1 divided by 3. Or if I had a calculator, I could very simply just do 1 divided by 3. So 1 divided by 3 is 0.33333, repeating. And this says that's less than 13.9%. Well, let's put them into the same form. Let's make them both percents. So I move my decimal. Ready? 1, 2 spaces, right? Remember, Dr. Pepper. If I have a decimal and I want a percent, I'm going to the right. So this is really 33.3%, repeating, is less than 13.9%. Well, wait a minute. That's not true. 33% would be greater than 13%. So I have found my false statement. It is C. 1/3 is not less than 13.9%. It is greater than. I can double check D just in case this is a choose more than one. 20 divided by 4 would be 5. 5 whole things would be 500%. And 500% is greater than 400%. So there was only one false statement. So we really need to use that number sense when we're looking at these fractions, decimals, and percents. Like, what do we know? What can we eliminate to be true? All right, number 3, select all of the correct answers. Which of the following is equivalent to 1.5%? All right, 1.5%. I like to write that Dr. Pepper. That way I know what direction I'm moving the decimal. I have a percent. I want a decimal. I'm going to the left, to the left. 1, 2 spaces. I need to put that zero kind of placeholder, right? So this is really 0.015 or 15 thousandths. So 0.015 is E. And to change that decimal to a fraction, I say it, I write it, I reduce it if I need to. So I look at that number. Mathematically, it's 15 thousandths. So 15 over 1,000. 15 thousandths. So I'm looking for C and E. Remember, every percent only has one equivalent decimal and then one fraction, although sometimes a fraction can be simplified, so that might be a little bit of a lie. But you're looking for one fraction, one decimal, and 1% to be equivalent to each other. All right, let's look at number 4. Number 4 says, which of the following is correctly listed from greatest to least? So all of them use the same numbers, 2 3/8, 2.01, and 30.5%. Oops, I ran out of space there. All right, so if I was looking at these, right, do I have to convert these all to the same form? Well, yes, in theory, I should put these all in the same form. But I'm going to use what I know about numbers, right? And I'm going to just kind of pretend that I have a number line, right? Or actually, I can draw my number line. And here we go. And we have 0, we have 1, we have 2, we have 3. All right, let's think about the first number, 2 3/8. Okay, well, 2 4/8 would be half, right? 4 out of 8 would be half. So that half, like maybe 2.5 would be somewhere like here. So 2 3/8 is going to be on the left, but pretty close to half. So I'm going to say that that right there is 2 3/8. All right, let's change our colors up for the next one. 2 1/100. 2 1/100 is basically right at the 2. So I'm going to say 2 1/100 is like right here. 2 1/100. And then 30.5%. Okay, 30% is less than one whole thing, right? So if I have 30% of a pizza, that's less than half of a pizza. So 30% is going to be down here. 30.5%. It's going to be closer to the 0, but in between the 0 and the 1, right? Less than one whole, but a little more than nothing. So if I kind of just estimate on the number line where these things would be, it makes them easier to put them in order. So if I want to go from greatest to least, I'm going to start with the number on the right, 2 3/8 first. Then I'm going to travel left to the next one, 2.01. Then I'm going to travel to my smallest one, 30.5%. So I really didn't have to do any of the conversions. I can just use what I know about the number line and place them about where they need to go. And you can just kind of do that by talking yourself through it, thinking of kind of those common markers, 2.5, 1/2, and figuring out, am I left or right of that number? Am I closer to 2 or am I closer to 3? So those are just things you can work out as you're kind of practicing. So greatest to least looks like it's A. Ooh, look at that. And I didn't have to do any of that long division or those hard conversions, right? I just used that number line to put them about where they should be. All right, let's try it one more time because now we're going to go in ascending order. All right, guys, to ascend means you're going up. So you're going least to greatest. So all of those are the same numbers. I have 0.33, 130%, and then 1 1/3. That common fraction, that 1/3. All right, so let's make our number line. Again, not having to be perfect. And nothing goes above 2, so I just have 0, 1, and 2. Now I'm just going to go from number to number, and I'm going to place it about where I think it should be. All right, so if I'm looking at this first one, 33 hundredths. Well, that's less than 1, right? And if half was here, let's say about, right? 0.33 is less than half, right? So I'm just going to estimate that 0.33 or 33 hundredths would be about there. All right, so now I'm going to go to 130%. All right, so here's half about. So I know 130%, I have more than one whole, but less than 1.5. Because remember, 1.5 would be 150%. So I'm going to estimate that 130% is about here, 130%. Now, 1 1/3. Remember that 1/3, we solved this one before. 1/3 is that 0.33 repeating. So I think to myself, is that on the right of the 130%? Is it bigger? Or is it on the left of 130%? Well, 1.33 would be 133%. So that would kind of be on the right over here, but pretty close to our last number. So I have them ordered about where I think they should be. If I want to go in ascending order, least to greatest, I start at the left and then I get bigger as I move to the right. So 33 hundredths would be first, then 130%, then 1 1/3, which happens to be B, right? So I'm just using that strategy to kind of estimate about where it should be on the number line to figure out which one is correct. Woo! We got another order one. It's all right, people. We can do it. We can do it. We are smart. We are capable. And just think about how long this is taking me as the teacher. Then this should be taking you as a student a little longer. I should say about the same amount of time, but a little longer to be doing these conversions because they can just be tricky and we want to be sure we're doing them correctly. All right, so let's see. It says, which of the following is in order from greatest to least? So let's look at these numbers. I have 14/2. That's a nice big improper fraction. 1.405, so a little more than 1. 41.5%, which is less than 1, and then 2/5. All right, so let's see. Okay, 14/2. Okay, let's simplify that fraction. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 7 whole things. Then I have 1 whole thing, less than 1 whole thing, less than 1 whole thing. So I know that the biggest number has to be that 14/2. That is going to be the biggest. I have 7 whole things with 14 divided by 2. So just by solving that one problem, I now need to find the list that starts with 14/2 because that's my greatest number. So I can eliminate A. 41% is less than 1 whole. If I have 7 wholes, I definitely have more. I can eliminate C. 2/5 is less than 1 whole, so it can't be that one. I can eliminate D. 2/5 is less than 1 whole, so I can eliminate that one. The only list that starts with our biggest number is B. So it has to be that one. Let's go down the line and check. 14/2 is 7. Then I have 1 whole, 1 405 thousandths. Then 41%, then 2/5, which would be 40%. I could check that 2/5 in the calculator. Not that we'll have one, but I'm just saying, just to show you that I'm not lying to you. 2 divided by 5 is 0.4 times 100, 40%. So that's my lowest one there. So it is handy if you can check in a calculator to just double check your work while you're practicing. It's nice to see that you're on the right track while you're practicing. All right. Whew, let's move on. We're almost halfway there, people. It says, which number has the least value? All right. So when we're doing the least value, and we're dealing with fractions, decimals, and percents in general, when we're ordering, we really want them in the same form. So let's look at this 6.5%. Let's make that a decimal. Remember, Dr. Pepper. We're going to the left. 1, 2. Put that 0 placeholder there. I have 0 or 0.065 or 65 thousandths. 23 thousandths, this B, 23 over 1,000 means I need to end, in the thousands place. So 0, 2, 3. 4 thousandths, 0.004 is already written as a decimal for me, and 2 ninths. I don't know if you know the trick of the ninths, but if you're not in my class, if your teacher didn't tell you, 1 ninth is 0.111111111. 2 ninths is 0.222222222. 3 ninths is 0.333333333. 4 ninths is 0.444444444. So the trick of the ninths is the numerator just repeats, right? So 2 ninths is 0.222 repeating. We'll put that little line that shows that we're repeating. All right, we're looking for the smallest number. So we can eliminate 2 ninths because that one doesn't start with that 0 in the tenths place. So these 3 are the same, right? They all start with that 0 in the tenths place. Well, they also have a 0 in the ones place, but I didn't list that. So now we go to the hundreds place. I have a 6, I have a 2, I have a 0. Well, the 0 is going to be my smallest at that point. So 4 thousandths would be smaller than 65 thousandths and then smaller than 23 thousandths. So that is the one with the least value. All right, we're getting there, friends. So select the decimal and percent equivalent to 4/5. All right, let's do some long division. 4/5. 4 goes on the inside. 5 goes on the outside. If I have 4, could I give you 5? Well, no, I don't have enough. I have to look to my neighbor. So how many groups of 5? Sorry, I'm going to say this again. I got tongue-tied. How many groups of 5 are in 40? Well, if I count by 5, well, you can go up by 5, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. I have 8 groups. Groups goes on top. 8 times 5 is 40. And I have no remainder, which means I'm done. So 4/5 is 8/10. So I can eliminate A. I can eliminate B. So I just got to figure out which one of those percents would be 8/10. Well, I think back to the very famous Dr. Pepper. If I have 8/10, which means I have a decimal, I want a percent, I'm going 1, 2 spaces. 1, 2 spaces. I have to add that 0 and then add my percent sign. So 80%, right? It's the same as multiplying by 100. So again, if I have my calculator and I have 0.8, remember, percent means out of 100. I take my decimal times 100. 80%. Ta-da! All right, let's look at number 9. Number 9 says select the comparison that would make this true. So let's look. This one has, we have to see how many total we have. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Right? Is that 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 4. Yep, 9. All right, so how many are colored? 7 out of 9. And then I look at the next one. I have 9 again, but this time's 6 out of 9 is colored in, shaded in. Well, if I have common denominators, I look at the numerator. I have 7, I have 6. 7 is bigger than 6. So 7/9 is greater than 6/9. Right? That one's not too bad. All right, it says number 10, halfway there. It says, which of the following represents the correct fraction, decimal, and percent of the region that's colored? So there's 3 that are shaded in out of 5. So that would be 3/5. Well, let's look at 3/5. Let's change that to a decimal. I do 3 divided by 5. If I have 3, I cannot give you 5. I go to my neighbor. There are 6 groups of 5 in 30. 5 times 6 is 30, and I have no remainder. So 3/5 is the same as 6/10. And let's see if we have 6/10 to make it a percent. I go 1, 2 spaces, and I add that 0, 60%. So it looks like I'm C, 6/10, which is 60%. Woo! All right, we made it halfway there. If you're still with me, you're doing excellent. If you're not with me, I know, I hear you. All right, let's look at this one. All right, this one I'm going to show you in a different way. So if I take, okay, so it has 8 pieces. If I go straight across and cut it in half, and straight down and cut it in half, I can create kind of like those 4 sections. And if I look here, I have 3 out of 4 that are shaded. 3 out of 4, which is the same as what the model shows, 6 out of 8. Well, 6 out of 8 is equivalent to 3 out of 4, right? I have those 4 equal sections. Now 1, 2, 3 are shaded out of 4. 3/4, 3/4. If I have 3/4, I have 75 cents, right? So don't overthink it. Sometimes it's way easier than you think it is. Think about money or pizza or things that are common to us that help us identify these common fractions. All right. Speaking of fourths, our next model is broken into fourths. If I look here, let's say we're talking about pizza. I have 1 whole pizza, 2 whole pizzas, 3 whole pizzas, and then 3/4 of the next pizza. So I have 3 pizzas and then 75% or 0.75 of the next pizza. So 3.75 is what's represented as a decimal, but if I want to make that a percent, I'm going to the right, to the right. 375% of pizza, right? 3 holes and then 75%. The reason it's not B is B says 3.75%. That's not a lot, right? If you scored a 3% on a test, that was not that good. So 3%, not big. If you have 3 whole things, you have 300% plus what's ever left over on the 4th one. So just be careful with that one. That one can be tricky. All right, it says, which of the following is equivalent to 3/10? Well, let's say that 3/10, 0.3. I have a 3 in the tenths place, 3/10. Well, it can't be B because that says 300ths. It can't be A because that's 3 whole things. So I got to figure out, is that 3% or 30%? Well, remember, we have to keep referring back to this Dr. Pepper, right? Decimal to percent. So if I have a decimal and I want a percent, I'm going 1, 2 to the right. 1, 2. I have to add that 0 and add that percent sign. 30%, right? Whew, we're getting there, friends. We are getting there. All right, so let's look. It says, which of the following does not show an equivalent relationship? All right, if you're familiar with your fifths, 1 1/5, 1 1/5 is the same as 1 2/10, right? So fifths, like 1/5 is 2/10, 2/5 is 4/10, 3/5 is 6/10. And again, if you have that handy dandy calculator that I've referred to, we could check that. 1 divided by 5, 2/10. So is 1 1/5 the same as 1 2/10? Yes, so it can't be A. All right, let's look at B. Is 37.5% the same as 375 thousandths? Well, again, if I keep that Dr. Pepper up there, I need to stop erasing that bad boy. I'm going, I have a percent, I want a decimal, I'm going 1, 2.375. 375 thousandths, yes, that is equivalent. 1 9/10 and 109%. So let's examine this one. 1 9/10. Well, if I have a decimal and I want a percent, I'm going 1, 2 to the right. 1, 2. I add that 0. I add that percent sign. 1 9/10 is 190%, not 109%, which means it has to be C. We're so close to being done. Stay with me, friends. All right, number 15. Select the decimal and percent equivalent to 2 1/4. 2 wholes and 1/4. Well, if I have 2 whole things, I have over 200%, right? Two whole things would be 200%. So I can eliminate A because that says 21.4%. And I can eliminate B because that says just 22%. Remember, if your percent's less than 100, you have less than 1 whole. If I have 2 whole things, that's 200% plus whatever this percent would be, right? That should be a plus sign, not a 4. That was bad. All right, let's think of fourths, right? Anytime you see fourths, think of quarters. If I have 1/4, I have 0.25. I have 25 cents. So 2 1/4 is the same as $2.25. 2 1/4, 2.25, which means I have to be D. 2.25 is the same, if I go 1, 2, as 225%, right? Here's the big thing, big takeaway from this. You see how they did for this one, 2.14? They just took the numerator and denominator and married them together. You can't do that. 1/4 isn't 0.14. 1/4 is 1/4, which is 0.25. So don't just take the numerator and denominator and put them next to each other. That's not how math works. All right, a couple more, people. It says select the correct symbol to place between the pictures to make the comparison true. Woo! That was a struggle for me. I was on the struggle bus. All right, so let's look at that red picture. I have 2 out of 3 colored in, 2/3. And that blue picture, I have 3 out of 5 plugged in. All right, if I had a calculator, great. That would be magical. I could do long division, or I could think to myself, what do I know about fractions? There are some common fractions that we will eventually just memorize. We've done 1/3 a bunch of times. 1/3 is 0.33333 repeating. 2/3 is now just 0.666 repeating. We'll do 0.66 repeating, right? We don't need to do 666. If you didn't believe me, you could just look at the calculator as we're practicing. 2 divided by 3. 0.66666. The calculator is going to round the very end to 7, although in theory that 6 goes on forever. Our next fraction was 3 divided by 5. Just 6/10, 0.6. So 3/5, again, if we know our fifths, is 6/10. Well, if this goes to the hundredths place, I should make this go to the hundredths place by adding that 0 placeholder. So I have 66 hundredths or 60 hundredths. Well, 66 is bigger than 60, so 2/3 is greater than 3/5, right? So obviously if we have calculators, this is super easy. Without calculators, it gets a little harder, which is why we really want to start learning some of these common fractions and their decimal equivalent. All right, let's talk about 5/8. Again, if you have a calculator, you just hit 5 divided by 8. Super simple, that gives you the decimal, times 100 gives you the percent. But without the calculator, we're doing 5 divided by 8. Now, remember what I told you earlier. You can't just take the 5 and the 8 and put it next to each other. 5/8 is not 0.58. Right? They're trying to trick you with that one. That's just lazy math. That's not how you do it. You don't take the numerator and denominator and marry them together. You can't do that way. Math doesn't work that way. So 5/8. 5 divided by 8. Let's do this long division. If I have 5, could I give you 8? Well, no, I don't have enough. So now I have to look next door. Here's a little trick when you're doing long division. You take the number you're dividing by, the 8, and then you write out the multiples. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56, 64, 72. All right, here we go. That's 8 times 1 through 9 times 8, or 8 times 9. All right, here we go. So now I look at 50. How many groups of 8 could I get? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could get 6 groups of 8. Groups go up top. 6 times 8 is 48. Woo, I subtract. 50 minus 48 is 2, and I bring down the 0. Now I have 20. How many groups of 8 could I get? 1, 2. I could get 2 groups of 8. 2 times 8 is 16. I subtract. 20 minus 16 is 4, and I bring down the 0. Really, you just need to go to the thousands place, not much more. How many groups of 8 are in 40? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have no remainder because I'm using all 40, but even if I had a remainder, I would stop right there. 5/8 is equivalent to 625 thousandths, right? So I found my decimal. So I can eliminate D because that didn't have the correct decimal. So now I got to figure out which of these percents is true. Remember, you're moving the decimal 2 spaces from the D in doctor to the P in pep. 1, 2 jumps. 1, 2 jumps. 62.5%. Not to the very end, but 2 spaces, which means you are C. Whew! Getting tired, but we're almost there. Perseverance. Perseverance, people. All right, number 18. It says, which is not equivalent to the model? Okay, well, the model has 1 whole and then 5 out of 8. Well, we just did all that hard work on 5/8. So it has 1 and 5/8, which would be the same since we just did that work. There's the percent for 5/8, but I have a 1 now, 162.5%, which would be the same as 1.625 or 1 and 625 thousandths, right? 162.5% because I have that 1 whole. So I can see that B, 16%, is not equivalent, right? Not equivalent. If I wanted to check this 13 over 8, right? 13/8. If I check that on my calculator, 13, oops, let's clear this bad boy. 13 divided by 8, I get the same as 1 and 5/8. So those are equivalent also. So sometimes just, if you get one of those improper fractions that you're like, oh gosh, I don't really know, just look at the other numbers to see like, okay, well, is there any of them that does not work? And then that's going to be your answer. We have 2 more people, 2 more problems. We can do this. We can do it. All right, select all of the numbers that are equivalent to 5/10%. 5/10%, not 5/10, 5/10%. So let's make that a decimal. Dr. Pepper, I'm going to the left, to the left. 0.005. 0.005 to be mathematically correct. Not 0.5. You can't just drop the percent sign and act like the number's the same. 0.5 is 50%. This is 5/10%, which is a teeny tiny number. Remember, if your mom says you have a less than 1% chance of doing something, that's a teeny tiny number, not a big number. So 5 thousandths, which is B, and I say it, 5 thousandths, 5/1000, which is D. So B and D, remember you're looking for 1 fraction, 1 decimal to match 1%. All right, it's our last one, friends. We've made it all. If you've made it to the end of the video, you are a rock star. This is a long one, I know, but we can do it. Which of the following is equivalent to 145%? All right, if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Here's Dr. Pepper. We have a percent. We want a decimal. I start at the decimal and I go to the left, Beyonce style. Remember, if the decimal is not listed, it's in front of the percent sign, and I go 1, 2 spaces, 1.45. Remember, if you have over 100%, you have 1 whole and then a little bit more. So 1.45. Nailed it. We nailed it. Now, I want you to think of 2 things as you kind of prepare for your Unit 2 assessment. Number 1, I'm a teacher. I worked out all these problems, and it still took me over 20 minutes. So your test should take you over 20 minutes. Number two, utilize the strategies and the notes that we've been taking, those Dr. Peppers, to the left. Think about your number sense, your number lines, where things should go. Use your critical thinking skills, your reasoning skills, your educated estimation skills to put things where they should go, to compare them, to order them, to just do your best. Just know you can do this. We believe in you. Let me know if you have any questions. I love you. Bye-bye.